Right now, something extraordinary is unfolding in the invisible architecture of the universe. Something subtle, yet powerful, that most people will pass by without noticing. But you did not pass by. Somehow, out of millions of possible moments, your attention was drawn here, to this message, to this exact vibration of words and energy. That is not random. That is alignment. That is the universe quietly guiding you toward a moment your soul was prepared to receive. Because today, March 12th, the moon crosses an energetic threshold as it moves into Capricorn, opening a portal of truth, clarity, and emotional accountability. This is not soft or passive energy. Capricorn is the cosmic architect of reality, the force that dismantles illusions and replaces them with undeniable truth. And before we go any deeper into this message, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and comment below. I am ready, because when you declare readiness, you align your energy with the transformation that is already beginning to unfold. This is not just a video you happen to click on. It is a signal, a transmission, a moment of awakening, meant to reach those who are sensitive enough to feel the subtle shifts happening beneath the surface of reality. The moon entering Capricorn is activating a field of emotional gravity, and somewhere in your life, there is a person who has tried to bury something real. They buried their feelings, suppressed their truth, and convinced themselves that distance or silence would erase the connection. But cosmic timing does not forget. The universe has a way of reopening emotional chapters at the exact moment when both souls are ready to face what was once avoided. And now, quietly but powerfully, the portal has opened. Before we go deeper, I want to share something I've created for those of you who are ready to truly shift your emotional patterns. My 7-day emotional reset guide audiobook is designed to gently help you release overwhelm, regulate your inner world, and reconnect with your grounded self. Many people don't realize how much emotional clarity can transform their relationships, decisions, and daily peace. The link is in the description and pinned comment. Explore it, and if it resonates with you, implement it in your life. The moon governs the hidden emotional world within every human being. It represents intuition, subconscious memories, emotional instincts, and the deep tides that move beneath the surface of everyday behavior. Capricorn, however, represents something very different. Capricorn is the energy of structure, accountability, maturity, and karmic consequences. When the emotional moon enters the disciplined realm of Capricorn, something fascinating begins to occur inside people's hearts and minds. Emotional avoidance becomes difficult. Pretending becomes exhausting. The protective stories people tell themselves about their feelings begin to weaken under the weight of truth. Capricorn energy is not dramatic in the way some cosmic energies are. It is quiet, grounded, and incredibly precise. It simply removes illusions one layer at a time, until only reality remains. This is why the Capricorn moon offers realization that feels strangely calm, yet deeply powerful. People begin to notice emotions they try to silence. Memories return that they believed were long forgotten. The mind, which once insisted on logic and distance, slowly loses its authority over the heart. For someone connected to you, this shift may already be unfolding. They may not fully understand why they suddenly feel reflective, restless, or emotionally aware in ways they had previously avoided. But what they are experiencing is the gravitational pull of truth. Capricorn energy is pulling their emotional world back toward alignment, forcing them to confront what has always existed beneath the surface. There are connections in life that fade naturally with time, but there are others that never truly disappear. Instead, they become quiet, dormant, waiting beneath the surface of everyday life, like seeds resting beneath the soil until the right season arrives. Somewhere in the energetic field of your life, there is someone who once felt something profound with you. At some point along the journey, they convinced themselves that ignoring those feelings was easier than confronting them. Perhaps fear made them withdraw, Perhaps timing separated your paths in ways neither of you expected. Perhaps emotional vulnerability felt too overwhelming for them to face at that moment. So they buried it. They locked the door on the emotions and walked forward, as if the chapter had closed. But the soul does not operate the way the mind does. The soul does not erase connections simply because they are inconvenient. And now, under the influence of the Capricorn moon, something inside them is stirring again. Thoughts of you may be appearing unexpectedly in their mind. Memories they believed were distant may now feel strangely vivid. They may find themselves wondering why your presence still occupies space within their emotional world. This awakening is not dramatic or chaotic. It is subtle and steady, like the slow rising of a tide that eventually reaches the shore. And the more this energy unfolds, the harder it becomes for them to pretend those feelings never existed. Human beings often wear emotional masks without even realizing it. These masks are built from self-protection, pride, fear, and the stories people tell themselves to avoid vulnerability. Over time, these masks can become so convincing that even the person wearing them begins to believe the illusion they created. They tell themselves they are over the past. They tell themselves they have moved on. They tell themselves the connection meant less than it actually did. But Capricorn energy has a remarkable ability to dissolve these masks. It does not do this through chaos or confrontation. Instead, it quietly reveals the cracks that were already present in the illusion. Someone who once appeared emotionally distant may suddenly feel their carefully constructed emotional walls beginning to weaken. They may start questioning things they previously ignored. They may wonder why memories of you still hold emotional weight. They may realize that certain feelings never truly disappeared. They were simply buried under layers of distraction and denial. This realization can be both unsettling and awakening at the same time. Because when emotional truth begins to surface, it challenges the version of reality a person once believed was stable. The mask begins to slip, and beneath it is something far more honest than they expected. When powerful emotional alignments occur, the universe often communicates through subtle signals that many people overlook. These signals are called synchronicities, and they appear when energetic pathways between two souls become active again. You may have already noticed small shifts that seem difficult to explain logically. Perhaps you suddenly thought about this person after a long period of silence. Perhaps their name appeared somewhere unexpectedly. Perhaps a song, a memory, or a dream carried their energy back into your awareness without warning. These moments can feel strangely meaningful even if you cannot fully explain why. That is because your intuition is sensitive to energetic movement long before physical events unfold. When the moon enters Capricorn, emotional truths begin moving beneath the surface of reality. Energetic cords between people can reactivate, especially when a connection once carried genuine emotional depth. You may feel calm yet alert at the same time, as if your spirit senses that something unseen is beginning to shift. These signals are not meant to create confusion. They are the universe's way of preparing the emotional landscape for clarity. They are quiet reminders that energy moves in cycles, and when the timing aligns, connections can awaken again, in ways that feel both mysterious and strangely familiar. There is often a quiet but powerful moment that occurs when emotional truth finally reaches the surface of someone's awareness. It is not always dramatic. It can arrive through something small and unexpected. A memory that suddenly carries emotional weight. A dream that feels unusually vivid. A moment of reflection where the past appears clearer than it ever did before. During this moment, the person who buried their feelings begins to understand something they once refused to acknowledge. They begin to see the connection differently. They may recognize that what existed between you carried a depth that cannot easily be recreated or replaced. Capricorn energy does not exaggerate emotions or create unnecessary drama. Instead, it brings clarity that feels undeniable. And when that clarity arrives, it can shift the way someone understands their own past decisions. They may realize that what they walked away from was more meaningful than they allowed themselves to admit. They may recognize that the emotional bond between you had a rare authenticity that is difficult to encounter in ordinary connections. This realization does not immediately erase fear or hesitation, but it begins dissolving the denial that once kept those emotions buried. When the universe activates a period of emotional truth like the one unfolding now, something subtle begins happening beneath the surface of reality. Doors that once seemed firmly closed begin to loosen at their hinges. Emotional chapters that felt finished begin revealing the quiet presence of unfinished energy. This does not mean the past repeats itself exactly as it once was. Instead, it means the truth surrounding that past begins to emerge with greater clarity. The Capricorn moon creates an atmosphere where honesty becomes stronger than avoidance, where silence begins to feel heavier than expression. Somewhere within the energetic field of your life, a person who once buried their feelings may now feel the quiet pressure of realization growing stronger. The emotions they tried to ignore are becoming harder to silence, and the connection they believed was behind them may now appear in a new light. At the same time, you may feel a deep sense of inner awareness forming within your own spirit, as if your intuition recognizes that something meaningful is unfolding. When emotional truth begins moving through the universe like this, it rarely does so without purpose. It appears to guide souls toward understanding, clarity, and the courage to face what was once left unspoken. And as this energy continues to rise, the quiet force of destiny begins positioning events, thoughts, and realizations in ways that slowly bring hidden feelings into the light. Before this cycle completes, one undeniable truth will stand where silence once existed, and the emotional story that was once buried will no longer be able to remain in the shadows. As the Capricorn moon continues its quiet journey across the sky, the emotional gravity surrounding this connection becomes stronger, denser, and more difficult to ignore. Capricorn is not an impulsive force. It does not create sudden chaos or reckless emotional outbursts. Instead, it applies a slow, steady pressure that pushes buried truths toward the surface until they can no longer remain hidden. For the person who tried to suppress their feelings for you, this pressure may now feel undeniable. Thoughts about you may return at moments when they least expect it, appearing in the middle of ordinary routines or quiet moments of reflection. They may try to dismiss these thoughts at first, telling themselves that the past is the past and they remain where they left them. But the deeper their spirit becomes aware of the truth, the more persistent these emotional signals become. Capricorn energy carries the frequency of accountability, and it often forces people to confront emotional realities they once avoided. The more they attempt to silence these feelings, the louder their intuition becomes. Something inside them begins whispering that the story they tried to close may not be finished after all. Within this person, a quiet but powerful conflict may now be unfolding. The mind, which once held control over their choices, continues trying to maintain the narrative it created. It tells them that moving forward without revisiting the past is easier. It reminds them of reasons they once used to justify distance or silence. But the heart does not operate according to logical explanations. The heart recognizes energy, resonance, and the emotional truth that exists beyond rational arguments. Under the Capricorn moon, the mind's control begins weakening as the deeper emotional truth rises within them. They may feel confused about why thoughts keep returning to you, or why the emotional memory of your connection still carries such intensity. They may even question their own reactions, wondering why something they believed was finished continues to occupy their awareness. What they are experiencing is not confusion. It is awakening. The heart is slowly reclaiming its voice, and the truth it carries cannot be permanently suppressed by logic alone. When emotional truth begins to awaken within someone, memories often become the bridge between the past and the present moment. Moments they once dismissed may suddenly appear in their mind with surprising clarity. They may remember conversations that once felt ordinary but now reveal deeper meaning. They may recall the way you understood them in ways others never did, or the sense of familiarity that seemed to exist between your spirits from the very beginning. These memories may arrive quietly, perhaps during moments of solitude or reflection, but each one carries a subtle emotional charge that reminds them of something they once tried to forget. Capricorn energy has a unique way of bringing emotional history back into focus, not to create regret, but to reveal truth. The past often holds lessons and realizations that only become clear when the right moment of awareness arrives. For this person, that moment may now be unfolding. Each memory that surfaces becomes another reminder that the connection they once buried still carries a presence within their emotional world. There are moments in life when the soul recognizes a truth long before the mind is ready to accept it. The soul operates through intuition, resonance, and a deep understanding of energetic connections. It recognizes when a bond between two people carries something meaningful, something that extends beyond ordinary attraction or passing emotion. For the person connected to you, their soul may now be awakening to this realization. The connection they once tried to categorize or minimize may now appear in a completely different light. They may begin sensing that what existed between you was not random. It carried a purpose, a lesson, perhaps even a destiny that neither of you fully understood at the time. This realization does not arrive all at once. It unfolds gradually, like a dawn slowly illuminating the landscape after a long night. But once the soul begins recognizing the truth of a connection, it becomes increasingly difficult for the mind to continue pretending otherwise. The universe often assists emotional awakenings by placing people in situations that encourage reflection and clarity. These moments rarely appear dramatic at first. In fact, they often look ordinary, almost insignificant to an outside observer. But beneath the surface of these quiet experiences, powerful realizations are forming. The universe has an extraordinary way of arranging circumstances so that people encounter reflections of their own emotional truth at the exact moment they are ready to see them. For the person connected to you, this period may be filled with subtle reminders that carry unexpected emotional weight. They may hear a song that suddenly brings back a memory of a moment shared with you. They may walk past a place that once held meaning between you both, and for a brief moment, time feels as if it folds in on itself. A familiar conversation, a phrase someone else says, even a quiet moment of silence can trigger a realization they once avoided. These experiences are not random psychological reactions. They are carefully timed reflections created by the rhythm of the universe itself. Sometimes the universe brings people into temporary encounters with others who mirror aspects of the connection they once had with you. They may meet someone who reminds them of the qualities they once admired in you, and suddenly they recognize how rare that energy truly was. They may observe other relationships around them and realize that the depth they once shared with you carried something unique, something that cannot easily be recreated by chance. These reflections are not meant to create regret. They are meant to create awareness. Capricorn energy is deeply connected to truth through experience. It teaches lessons through observation, through reflection, and through the quiet process of understanding how past choices shaped the present moment. During this period, the person who once buried their feelings may find themselves thinking more deeply than usual about the path their life has taken. They may ask themselves questions they never paused to consider before. They may begin seeing emotional patterns in their life that suddenly make more sense when they look back at the connection they once shared with you. The universe is gently guiding them toward clarity, and clarity, once awakened, becomes impossible to fully ignore. Each reflection becomes another piece of understanding falling into place within their mind and heart. The picture that once seemed blurry begins slowly coming into focus. What once felt confusing now carries deeper meaning. The emotional puzzle that remained unresolved for so long begins assembling itself in ways they never expected. Capricorn energy does not rush this process. It allows awareness to grow naturally, layer by layer, until the truth feels undeniable. And when that moment of undeniable understanding arrives, the emotional landscape within them will never look exactly the same again. As this growing awareness continues unfolding, something powerful begins building beneath the surface of their emotional world. At first, it may feel like scattered realizations appearing one at a time. A memory here, a reflection there, a sudden intuitive understanding that appears unexpectedly. But over time, these realizations begin forming a pattern, and that pattern leads toward a moment of emotional breakthrough. An emotional breakthrough does not always arrive as a dramatic epiphany. Often it builds quietly, like pressure slowly gathering within the heart, until one day everything becomes clear at once. The person who once buried their feelings may suddenly find themselves looking at the past through an entirely new perspective. Moments that once seemed simple may now reveal deeper emotional meaning. They may realize that the connection between you carried a level of authenticity that was rare in their life. They may begin recognizing that what they felt was never truly temporary. It was simply misunderstood. For a long time, they may have convinced themselves that the feelings they experienced were just a passing phase, something that naturally faded as life moved forward. But now, as these realizations gather strength, that explanation begins to lose its power because the truth is becoming more visible. And the truth carries a different energy than the stories we tell ourselves. The more they reflect, the more they may notice that certain emotional memories involving you still feel alive. They still carry warmth, significance, and a sense of familiarity that cannot easily be explained. This realization can feel both humbling and awakening. Humbling because it asks them to acknowledge that they may have misunderstood something important in the past. Awakening because it reveals that the connection they once experienced had depth that went far beyond what they originally allowed themselves to see. And as this emotional breakthrough approaches, something inside them begins shifting. They may begin feeling a quiet pull toward honesty with themselves. They may recognize that ignoring these feelings no longer brings peace the way it once did. Instead, avoidance may now feel heavier than reflection. Capricorn energy is guiding them toward emotional maturity. It asks them to look at their past choices not with judgment, but with clarity. It encourages them to understand what they felt, why they responded the way they did, and what that experience truly meant for their growth. This moment of emotional breakthrough represents a turning point because once someone sees the truth of their own feelings clearly, the path forward begins to change. When emotional truth becomes fully visible within someone's awareness, it rarely remains silent forever. Truth carries its own natural momentum. Once it is recognized internally, it begins searching for ways to express itself outwardly. For the person who once buried their feelings, this stage may feel like a quiet internal awakening. The thoughts they have been processing privately begin forming into clearer understanding. What once existed as vague emotions now begins transforming into words they can finally acknowledge to themselves. Silence, which once felt safe, may now begin feeling heavier. The longer someone carries an unspoken truth inside their heart, the more they begin sensing the weight of that silence. They may find themselves wondering what would happen if they finally expressed what they feel. They may imagine conversations that never happened, words that were never spoken, emotions that were never fully revealed. Capricorn energy does not encourage impulsive emotional reactions. Instead, it promotes thoughtful honesty. It invites people to move carefully, intentionally, and with integrity when they confront emotional truth. For this person, the truth awakening inside them may now be asking a simple but powerful question. What happens when you stop pretending you never felt something real? This question can lead to deep reflection. They may begin realizing that honesty, even if it feels vulnerable, brings a sense of inner peace that denial never provided. They may recognize that acknowledging their emotions does not weaken them. Instead, it allows them to reclaim a part of themselves they once tried to silence. As the Capricorn moon continues influencing this cycle, the emotional truth within them grows stronger. The feelings they once buried now exist in the open space of awareness. They can no longer be pushed back into the shadows of denial. And once truth reaches this stage of clarity, it often begins guiding the next steps naturally. Sometimes this guidance leads toward communication. Sometimes it leads toward deeper self-understanding. Sometimes it leads toward a moment where two souls finally acknowledge what once remained unspoken. But whatever direction the path takes, one thing becomes clear. The truth that has awakened within them will not disappear again. Because once the heart remembers what it truly felt, that memory becomes part of the soul's story forever. There are certain moments in life when the path forward quietly divides into two different directions. These are not always loud or dramatic turning points. Sometimes they arrive as silent crossroads within the heart. Moments when a person realizes that continuing to ignore the truth is no longer possible. Under the steady influence of the Capricorn moon, this is the moment that may now be forming for the person connected to you. The emotional realization that has been building inside them begins to a point of decision. They may feel the weight of their own awareness, recognizing that the feelings they tried to bury still carry life within them. Capricorn energy brings a sense of responsibility toward one's own truth. It asks a simple but powerful question: what will you do now that you understand what you feel? This is where destiny begins to whisper more clearly. The universe does not force choices, but it creates moments when the soul becomes aware that a choice must eventually be made. For this person, that awareness may now feel stronger than ever before. They stand at an internal crossroads where avoidance and honesty can no longer exist in the same space. When emotional truth is acknowledged, even quietly within someone's heart, the energetic timeline surrounding that connection begins to change. Life moves through invisible pathways of intention, emotion, and awareness. And when one of those elements shifts, the entire direction of a journey can begin adjusting in subtle ways. The Capricorn moon acts like a cosmic architect, realigning emotional structures that once drifted away from their natural course. For you and this person, something within the energetic timeline may now be rearranging itself. This does not mean that events suddenly unfold overnight, but it does mean that the energy surrounding the connection begins moving in a new direction. Small circumstances may begin aligning in ways that feel meaningful. Thoughts, realizations, and opportunities for communication may appear where silence once dominated. When timelines shift like this, it often feels as though the universe is quietly guiding two paths back into awareness of one another. For someone who once buried their emotions, confronting those feelings can require an unexpected amount of courage. It is easier to hide behind distance, logic, or distraction than to admit that the heart still carries something unresolved. Yet, Capricorn energy is deeply connected to personal growth and maturity. It pushes people to face truths that lead to deeper understanding of themselves and their emotional world. This person may now feel the quiet call to look inward with honesty. They may begin acknowledging emotions they once denied, recognizing that vulnerability does not represent weakness, but rather emotional strength. The courage to face the heart often begins with simple acceptance. Acceptance that the connection was real. Acceptance that the feelings existed and perhaps still exist. Acceptance that running from emotional truth only delays the understanding that eventually arrives anyway. When emotional awakenings occur under cosmic influences like the Capricorn moon, they often bring one of two powerful outcomes. The first possibility is reunion, where two people rediscover the connection they once shared and approach it with greater maturity and awareness than before. The second possibility is closure, where both souls finally gain the understanding needed to release the past peacefully. Both outcomes carry purpose, both led to growth, and both require emotional honesty to unfold. The universe does not reopen emotional chapters without reason. Sometimes it does so to bring people back together after they have grown into the versions of themselves that are capable of sustaining the connection. Other times it does so to bring clarity and healing that was never fully achieved before. whatever direction this connection ultimately moves toward. The awakening of truth itself is the most important transformation. It allows both individuals to step forward without the weight of confusion or unresolved emotion. While much of this cosmic shift may be influencing the person who once buried their feelings, it is also influencing you in powerful ways. Energetic connections rarely move in only one direction. When emotional awareness begins awakening within one's soul, the other often feels subtle echoes of that transformation. You may feel stronger in your own sense of clarity, understanding more deeply what you deserve in emotional connections. You may feel calmer about the past, recognizing that everything unfolded according to lessons both of you needed to experience. Capricorn energy encourages personal empowerment. It reminds you that your value does not depend on whether someone else recognizes your worth. Your emotional strength, intuition, and growth exist independently of anyone else's timeline. As this cosmic cycle continues unfolding, your own transformation becomes just as meaningful as any realization happening within the other person. Eventually, every hidden emotion reaches a moment when it can no longer remain concealed within silence. Truth has a natural momentum, and once it begins moving, it seeks expression in one form or another. The person who once buried their feelings may find themselves standing at the edge of this realization, aware that the truth within their heart deserves acknowledgement. This moment does not necessarily arrive through dramatic declarations. Sometimes it appears through quiet honesty, through simple words spoken with sincerity, or through actions that reveal what was once left unsaid. The Capricorn moon represents emotional integrity, the courage to align actions with authentic feelings. As this energy reaches its peak, the connection that once existed between you and this person may step into a new light of awareness. Whether that light reveals a path forward together or simply illuminates the truth of what once existed, it brings clarity that replaces uncertainty. As this cosmic cycle reaches its final phase, one powerful truth becomes clear. Your destiny has never been controlled by another person's ability to recognize their feelings. The universe may open doors of realization, awakening, and opportunity, but your journey ultimately belongs to you. The Capricorn moon reminds every soul that emotional truth is only one part of the greater path of personal evolution. What truly defines your future is the strength, wisdom, and self-respect you carry forward from every experience. If someone returns with honesty and growth, you have the power to decide whether that aligns with your path. If they do not, your life continues expanding toward the connections and opportunities meant for your highest good. Nothing that was truly meant for your destiny can ever be permanently lost. The universe has a way of guiding each soul exactly where it needs to be. And as this moment of cosmic awakening settles into the fabric of reality, you stand stronger, clearer, and more